The following is intended only for mature audiences. Always consult legal and medical professionals when needed. Viewer discretion is advised. Good evening and welcome to another edition of Terra Turas. My name is Michael. Here on the screen with me this evening, all the way to the left, Mr. Jared Walters. And right in the middle, our grand lady, Reverend Pat Beers. And now I have to turn around so that everybody can hear what they might be saying. See, just when I think that everything is running just right, I always make something else goof up. Good evening, folks. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing well.
Now everybody can hear you. This evening we're missing one of our panel members. She had a couple of things that came up. Heather is not here joining us this evening, but we're going to be talking about something that has been around for you might want to say thousands of years. It typically became much more known, I would probably say about 500 years ago. You see it in Hollywood all the time, but we're going to talk about the things that are not Hollywood, and we're going to talk about the things that are real. And tonight our discussion topic is mediumship. Now, above and beyond that, for the people that are in the chat room this evening, we're going to kind of test the waters for something a little bit newer. In the very last segment of our show tonight, we're going to pull at random somebody from the live audience, and if you have a question, if you can try to contain it more towards the topic of the show, but if you have a question that you would like to ask our panel, that is more than just an above and beyond the regular, if you would, in the chat room, if this is something that might interest you, that you want to ask us one of your questions, put an X1 by your name. And we'll pull somebody from random throughout the evening, and I'll remind people here again in a little bit. But we'll do that in the very last part of this show this evening. But tonight, like I said, we're going to be talking about mediumship. Now, because all three of us work as a medium, and all three of us see things very, very differently, I'm going to start and ask Jared, what is your definition of how a medium or mediumship is different from, say, a seance or a psychic reading?
Well, mediumship is actually, you can refer to the reader as the medium, the person who can connect with, can speak with, can converse with someone who is actually dead. So deceased loved one that has actually crossed over to the other side. So we're talking spiritual vibration that is higher than that of an earthbound spirit, which we talked about last week. Mm-hmm. But this is actually someone who's crossed over into the light, and we can still communicate with them. I like to think of it like an artist uses a medium meaning, their paint, their pencil, whatever it might be. We're just that intermediary between the living and the dead to bring through messages.
Now, I find that interesting because it is a distinction between people that have passed on. Pat, I'm going to ask you, in your work more as a medium and doing seances, how can you personally differentiate in between what you do as a medium versus what you do as a seance reader, and how do you personally feel? I want to say more on the inside. How do you personally distinguish between the two?
For me, they're so woven together, it's very difficult to differentiate.
Is it because you have done this for so long
I think so. I really think so. What I do is so natural to me that I forget what I know versus what someone else may not know, or how they look at it and how I look at it. It's just second nature. I've been doing this since I'm 7 years old, when my dead uncle came to me. Not only talked to me, but touched me on my head and called me Buckshot like he always did. I mean, it was very physical. I turned around to see him and, he wasn't there.
And this, again, because here again, I'm very much in a very similar kind of fashion with you, Pat, because I turn around. This has been with me since I've been 5, so we're talking 46 years. You do this for so long that it is indistinguishable at times between what you're doing as a reader, what you're doing as a medium, what you're doing as a seance, in many different ways. But we're still using many of the same tools to accomplish this. Jared, when you started reading more as a medium and working as a medium, when you started, how did you distinguish between working as a reader, a psychic, a tarot reader, or a medium?
Well, like Pat said, and also you said, Michael, it's kind of hard because they go hand in hand. But traditionally, like I said, a medium or mediumship is connecting with a deceased person, versus a psychic reading is usually a past, present, future tense type of information that you're giving. So foresight, seeing the future, or gathering events from the past in order to see what's going on energetically in a person's life. That's more psychic end of things, and that can be broken down into several different things, from clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance. Mm-hmm. There's some other clairs in there too, but you can use your psychic senses, usually because most people, I will say everyone has the ability to be psychic. I personally believe everybody has the ability to be a medium, because we're all spiritual beings living a physical life. Now you get some other people on the other end of the spectrum that feel not everybody is a medium, and it's if you either have it or you don't. Some people believe that way, but I personally do not believe that. I think everybody, just like if you sit down in front of a piano, some people will just go right at it like they've done it forever, and other people will plunk along for years and never truly get it. So there are different levels of ability that everybody has, but I do believe everybody can tap into that. They can work with it. They can train themselves to be more inept to receiving these messages and raising their physical vibration in order to receive the messages from spirit.
And I agree that it does. People, typically, mediums are born. It is something that is passed down generational. And like you said, there are other people that have a sudden life change. A near-death experience might change everything that they do or see or perceive. In your thinking, how would you tell people, what are some of the major or fundamental differences between what people would see in Hollywood on movies versus what you or Pat or I or another medium, what we would do in actual life?
That's an excellent question. I tend to be one of those persons that do watch, like Tyler Henry, do watch some of those mediums on TV. One of the things I think is more Hollywoodized, if you will, is the fact of ethics. They tend to approach people and just begin reading. It's like they don't ask permission. We don't see behind the scenes and actually see if they do give permission and what they're really doing here. But my belief is that the people that are seeking and wanting to receive a message from spirit are going to come to me. I may not be able to connect with everybody's past loved one, where Pat's resonance may be more in line to receive a message from somebody else's deceased loved one, where my resonance might be something different and connect better with somebody else. So if I don't receive something, Pat may receive something. Mm-hmm. There's just, all these different levels, all these different things to consider.
So you would basically say, and I don't want to say real mediums versus others, because, folks, I'm not trying to draw distinctions between who's good, who's bad, who stinks on ice. I'm not trying to do anything like that. But people that are working, that they thoroughly look at their capabilities, their gifts, their talents, may not be the kind of person to walk up to somebody in the middle of the grocery store and go, I have a message and I have to tell you. Many readers that I know don't do that. However, there are times that it will hit you so hard that you can't help but go up to somebody and say, in the back of your mind, you're screaming, going, I don't want to do this. Oh, shit, really, guys, you really want me to do this? And Pat told me a couple of times, Pat, when that happens to you, how do you handle it? Because I found this to be very interesting.
Like going to the grocery store. I'll run into someone. Most stores you go in, you go the right, you're going through the produce, right? I'll run into someone. Spirit say, you got to tell them, go on, tell them. I'm looking at them and I'm going, number one, I don't know this person. I don't know how long ago you passed. It could have been 2 days, 2 hours. They may not even know that you're dead yet. It could have been 20 years. So I will quick go the other end of the store and I'll work my way backwards. Well, lo and behold, here comes that person again. And Spirit will keep this up and I will keep running into them. My thing that I do is I'll go up to them, and if it's a male spirit or female, I'll say, I had the craziest dream about your sister Mary or your brother Bill or what. And sometimes I don't always get a name. I'll just say I had a dream about male or female, and I blurt it out before they have a chance to, And they either look at me and go, oh, that's interesting, or they look at me like I've got 5 heads and 6 arms. And if they do, I go, I am so sorry. I had a friend named Tweed Keziah, 50 years ago in Akron. Here, her husband was a reporter for the Beacon Journal, and they moved to Colorado. And she was from Houston, Texas. And I'd say, well, you are Tweed Keziah's friend, or you are Tweed's, relative or whatever. And they'll go, excuse me? I'm so sorry. I only met her a few times, but you look so much like her. I was sure it was you. Please excuse the intrusion. You have a wonderful day. I'm gone. Now, the clerks in the store will tell me, you told somebody, blah, 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 and they wanted to know, they thought it was fascinating. They didn't realize it for a few days. And they all know who I am. And they'll say, do I have permission? And I'll say, if they really want, yes, if they really want to talk to me, you can give them my number and have them call me. And what I find interesting is a lot of times it comes down to listening. How many times are you cooking and you're trying to make grandma's soup and it just doesn't taste right, and you hear this little thought in your head go, well, you didn't put in the whatever. Mm-hmm. And you go to the cupboard and you put a little bit of that in. Oh, well, that's it right there. My nephew Scott, who'll always be Scotty to me, even though there's a Scotty Jr., he's got to be in his early to mid 40s now. And he messages me on Facebook and he goes, Aunt Pat. And I said, hi, honey, how are you? He said, I have a question. Now, I've had nieces pass of drug overdoses, which were unfortunately legal, that they were trying to get off drugs and there was an interaction with whatever medication they gave them. Kind of like our friend Felicia and her sister. And he said, I was working on the railroad on the yard. And he said, I heard this male voice say to me, Scott, look out. And he said, I turned around and I was about to get hit by something that shouldn't have been there. And he said, Aunt Pat, who was that? And I said, I think it was Grandpa. Now, his grandfather, my biological dad, never worked on the railroad, but I don't know about our grandfather, his great-grandfather. And I said, all I can tell you, honey, is it was a grandfather. And he said, okay, because he said the voice, I knew the voice, but I didn't know the voice. And I said, honey, sometimes it's just a matter of paying attention to what's going on around you. I said, you do all kinds of crazy, dangerous work. I want you to please just pay attention. And sometimes that's all it takes, is just paying attention.
And that, when you told me the very first time that I ever met you, that you would walk up to somebody and you would just turn around and look at them and you would give them the message that you were supposed to hand over to them. And then you would go, oh, if they give you this odd look, you already had an escape plan so that you could back up and not create any kind of friction, embarrassment, or otherwise, and yet you still delivered the message.
Right. Because the Long Island medium drove me nuts. I consider it a fiduciary responsibility, my responsibility to the person I'm talking to. Because, again, we don't know if those people passed 50 years ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago. But they're not going to leave us alone until we deliver that message. So it's like, if we want peace for the rest of the day or the week or what, because you'll keep running into those people. The times that I have not delivered the message, every darn time I go back to the grocery store or a different store, there they are. And they'll keep that up until I deliver the message. Spirit has a sense of humor, trust me.
Jared, do you get bugged in that same kind of way? That spirit will actually hound you until you tell someone what is supposed to happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's wild because just keep popping in there, and it's like, okay, would you just leave me alone? I can't approach them right now. You know what I mean? You just start having these little dialogues. So that's where people probably do think you're crazy.
And it is. It is the hardest part with all of us in what we do is that we will start to say something we already know how it's going to make us look. Okay, like Pat said, I've grown horns, I've got a tail, whatever. And I think all of us have become so accustomed to that look, so to speak, that it doesn't bother us anymore.
Right.
But I can almost guarantee it bothered all of us at the very beginning because it was an uncertainty, or we did not want to get that connotation with it.
Yeah.
It's also a responsibility. You know, we know the message per se, or the gender, whatever I can't get this word in my head, GENRE, whatever that means. It's got to be important, or they wouldn't be bugging the living daylights out of us to give it. But we don't know, is this like a slap in your face, or is this something to think about tomorrow, or and it's like, and we're back to that. I was a realtor and broker for 20 years. So there's that fiduciary responsibility to the person that you're talking to, and then to do no harm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to scare them to death. I don't want to make them terrified. I just need to give them whatever this is so they can be aware. That's the only way I can think to put it.
And that's one of the hardest parts. When anybody working as a reader, a psychic, a medium, in the very early stages, they have to build that level of trust in what they are doing and who they are, or they can't really accomplish their job the way that it should come out, if that makes sense.
I've told you before, my prayer every night is I thank Mother, Father, God for my home, my health, my family, my friends, and my pets. And thank you for allowing me to be an instrument of your work and being able to give people the information they need to make the decisions they need to make, or to give them peace in some way. Because I'm sure we all have read for people who've been killed, accidental deaths, whatever, and our thing is to maybe help them find a little peace.
All right, Jared, I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit. When you begin working with a client as a medium, what fundamental differences might you take in yourself, or that a client might notice? What differences are there that you might do between a reading as a medium or a reading as a reader, a tarot, psychic, or other?
Oh, that's another good question. One thing I do before the client even gets there is I have to center myself. I go into meditation. Mm-hmm. I, open and align my chakras so I can raise the vibration within me so I can receive these messages. When the client sits down in front of me, I usually ask them, if there's anything specific they wanted to concentrate on. Are we doing more psychic work, or are we going to do more mediumship work, if they're wanting to connect with a deceased loved one or not? So during that time, I always will connect with a client and expand my aura, if you will, to engage within their aura. And I call on my guides and guardian angels to be present to help facilitate and communicate between their spirit guides and guardian angels so that I can receive the information, or to bring that spirit or loved one forward so we can have that clear communication, to bring through anything that's for the highest and best good of the querent or the sitter, the person that you're reading for. Mm-hmm. So I will actually, sometimes I'll hold the hands of the person, close my eyes, and then I'll start to concentrate or see who starts to come through right away, usually because they're already lined up. But in a lot of cases, those people have already been coming to you hours before the client even arrives at your door and are already trying to tell you information. So you start, having this overflow of of information that just spouts out, and you just start giving that information. Whenever I'm doing psychic work, I tend to use cards more for the psychic work, just as a basis for myself, but also for the client, because the client likes to be a visual. They like to see see things and interact in the reading in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll use cards, but sometimes I go off the cards completely, because as the intuition comes through and I start listening, a lot of times, like I said, I'm communicating with their guardian angels, their spirit guides, and they're giving me the information that I need to relate to the person I'm reading for. So there is a difference, but like I said, they kind of go hand in hand, because being a psychic and being a medium together, you can't have one without the other. Because if someone's sitting in front of you, naturally somebody's on the other side that wants to communicate. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, sibling, maybe even a child, whatever it might be, they come through naturally. And usually what I have to do is I have to stop and say, are you willing to hear a message from someone on the other side? And I leave that up to them if that's something they're ready to receive or not, because that might not be their focus and intention at that time. And then I might tell them, if they're not, come see me at another time when you're ready, and we'll see if we can't connect with them again, because there is a message that they want to bring through to you. And most people are open and receptive to that, because it's so mainstream these days. And like I said, it's all over TV. People have some sort of an expectation, and 9 times out of 10, if you're a medium, that's probably what you're going to be busy doing, is the mediumship work versus the psychic work.
I would agree with that. In the job that I do, my day job, so to speak, it is very fundamental, a very portion of that. Pat, when
Yes, sir.
you are reading for people and you're being a medium, how do you go about discerning that whom you're speaking with on the other side is the correct person that needs to be, or that the client is asking about? How do you go about having any kind of a confirmation, a handshake, if you will?
When I'm out in public and they start bothering me, I ask immediately, "Are you of the light?" Because you'll sometimes pick up earthbound spirits that
Mm-hmm.
are just trying to fool you. I always ask my angels and guides to be with me, and I ask to go to their angels and guides, and I ask that the message be clear, concise, complete, and I want a confirmation. I will ask them to give me something. If it's not a name, some situation, something that this person can connect to. I'm often told that my features change, my voice changes, and they would say, or I'm talking in the language that person knows. If they curse like a sailor, I'm going to say, I am so sorry, but this is what I'm getting, and I'm going to curse like a sailor.
Yep.
And sometimes the accent will even change. Just happens. And we don't even know we're doing it.
No, and that's most often. For me, because I'm a very visual person, I try to describe, because I do a lot of work on the phone, I try to describe what it is that I'm seeing, as in the other person from the other side creates a setting in a kitchen or on a front porch or whatever, and they have particular things around them that are of meaning to the client that I'm working with. So, if this is who you are, show me something that I can relate to your daughter, granddaughter, niece, whatever. And they often will tell me something, show me something, and I relate that to the client. And 9 times out of 10, it's real quiet on the other side of the phone line. And I have learned finally not to ask, "Are you still there?" But the client will come back and they will say, "There's no way you could know that." And I tell them, it's not me. I'm just a conduit, folks. Mm-hmm. I just have a refined understanding and a talent that has taken years to kind of gather and put together. And then they say, well, do they have something else? And typically for me, it's a process. Show me 2 things so that all 3 of us together know we're all talking it to the right person. And after that, it becomes a ton of questions going back and forth. And oftentimes, here in the real world, the client is as stunned what the person who has passed is asking. It's like, okay, you went to the grocery store last week and you were going to do the recipe. Why didn't you pick up what? And they named 2 or 3 things, and the person, look, folks, just because they have passed over, they didn't change who they are. They're the same now that they were then. If they were busting your rear end about something then, they're still going to do it now, which I find funny.
Especially if they have something that the person we're talking to couldn't stand, that pair of slacks that they think are, oh my, get rid of that t-shirt. Do you remember the time you blah, 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 and it's like, oh my, and it just, but they want to connect. They want to give this person something that says, it's really me. I tell people, I wish you could see my invisible TV screen. It would be so much easier.
You and I were just talking about that earlier today.
Yeah.
Because, and I think any reader, any psychic, any medium, if they said, if you could do one thing, I would love for people to see what I see. Mm-hmm. Because then it either becomes a massive confirmation or things are so horrible that it scares the hell out of them. This is what we deal with every day, folks. We don't get to pick and choose. Jared,
or sometimes they'll bring a scent to you. You know the smell of pine wood when it's being cut. I
Yep.
don't know the smell of cedar for sure, or oak, and they'll bring this, and I'm trying to, you guys show me something, guys, so I can tell them exactly what this is. And they'll go, oh, yeah, okay, I remember that.
Quite often, it smells from a kitchen, very particular things, like apple pie with a very hint of cinnamon on it or something. It happens all over. Jared, here's an odd question. When you had Max the Crystal Skull in your shop, do you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the term mediumship is being applied and used? Because Max at that point was literally talking directly to people. Mm-hmm. How did that affect some people? As in, it's one thing if I, the client, were coming to you and saying, Jared, I want you to act as a medium. I want you to contact my grandfather, grandmother. But with no intermediary, how did that affect these people?
Good question. Not everybody is attuned and inept to get the messages through clairaudience to actually hear Max speak to them. When we know about clairaudience, it's like hearing a thought or seeing a thought, if you will. It's not an actual physical conversation you're having back and forth, Max, like I'm having with you right now. It's more you're receiving these messages in your mind and you're processing them as a conversation through almost like a telepathy type thing. So not everyone is always inept to communicate that way. So you might have people that go in there, especially as children are really good at this, and they'll receive a message or they'll hear something. But most people come from the clairsentient standpoint, so it was an overall feeling that they received. So not everybody, and Max doesn't always talk to everybody at the same time. So it might just be an energy healing, or if he feels you need the information, he'll communicate that to you. Most people tend to be hush-hush, though, when they come out of the room. They just are digesting everything they received. I've never really had anybody come out going, oh, my God, you won't believe what Max just told me, But some people do receive those messages, but they usually internalize that and keep that to themselves. I also wanted to bring up another point that you had that Pat was actually speaking about, and you had asked her. I'm sure everybody's heard of the party line idea back in the old day when you would dial the operator, and there could be other people listening in on your conversation and whatnot. Well, mediumship works in a lot of the same ways, because even though you want to connect with grandpa or dad, it's not that I have a direct extension to get to him. So we call the operator, I need to connect with such and such, and who's out there listening, because somebody else might be talking and intervening before grandpa comes forward. It might take a few minutes for him to get here. Someone needs to relay that message over to him that he needs to get down here and talk to us. So we don't always have that direct line of communication when somebody sits down. Now, some mediums, I don't know if Pat does this or if you do this, Michael. I know Pat does psychometry, but some people will use psychometry in the form of visualizing and having a picture in front of them, because sometimes that will give that direct energetic connection to the person you want to communicate with. And so therefore, it's a little easier in some cases to connect with that specific person that you're looking to get in contact with. But most times, it's whoever comes through is who is going to talk to you. We don't have that control.
Pat, do you find it easier working as a medium in conjunction with psychometry? And for the people that are listening, psychometry is the capability, a talent, if you will, to pick up an inanimate object, a picture, jewelry, watch, earring, something that belonged to somebody, and it retains the energy or the energetics of that person.
I got to go back to Max. I had two dear friends first time Donna had Max at the shop, I went in. It was like my third or fourth time to see him. And I had a gentleman behind me that went to humor me. He knows what I do. He met me at a psychic fair, done seances at his house, blah, blah, blah. That's cool, Pat, but I'm not sure I quite believe in it. Take him with me to see Max. We walk in and Max goes, "Oh, it's you again." And this guy's 6'4". I see him stop in the doorway and go, "What was that?" And I said, "It was Max." And he said, "What?" The second one was Brenda Lynn from Seeds of Wellness, a nurse, very analytical, man. If it's not right. And she said, "Well, I want to talk to him." I said, "So talk to him." She said, "I can't talk to him." And then she realized she was talking to him. It's just too funny when they realize it. Oh my gosh, I am communicating with him. What was your question, Michael? Oh, the psychometry. One of my favorite times, and gosh, this has got to be 30 years ago at least. I went to a home on Maslin Road, a little brick ranch, and it had been owned by the parents. And now there were 5 girls, and they were like 4 years apart. It was amazing. They all looked entirely different. I thought maybe they were sister-in-laws or something. They each came to me with either a picture or an item that had belonged to their father. Their father came through to me at the age he was when they were born. Mm-hmm. So the oldest one he comes to me is a 19-year-old soldier in his Army uniform. The next one, he comes to me after he's home and starting a career. And I did not realize until I was done with the whole family that I had been talking to the same man, because each time he appeared to me, it was a different age, a different stage. And it was just absolutely fascinating. So you come and you bring me, I had a lady bring me what she thought was her husband's Thai bar. It was his father's Thai bar, and he was from the Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm trying to decipher what he's telling me, and I'm talking to her in very broken, "Well, I don't know what that's all about." And I said, "This gentleman here, this was his." And she later called me and told me it had been her husband's father's. And yes, he had come over here, prior to World War II. And that was him I was communicating with. Some of the things she could relate to, but most of it she could not, because it wasn't her husband. Mm-hmm. But it was things that were familiar to her because she knew her father-in-law, had heard him talk about some of this stuff. But people don't realize, if you give me your diamond ring, your engagement ring, or your wedding ring, and it's grandma's diamond, I'm still going to have grandma in there to some degree.
Yep. Every single time. We're going to take a break here in just a second. I want to remind the people that are in the chat room that are here live this evening, we're going to be doing a little bit something different this evening. If you have a desire that you would like to pose your own personal question to the panel, and it's try to keep it related to our topic or very similar to, please put just an X1 by your name in the chat room, and we're going to be drawing someone live from our chat, and we'll pose that same question to all 3 of the panel readers here this evening. And we'll kind of see where that's going to wind up and go. When we come back from our break, there are a couple of things that we need to do, things that we don't need to do, and things that we need to be cognizant of if we are going to be approaching any medium as a reader and asking questions. So we're going to check those out here in just a minute. We'll be right back. Divine Awakening's New Age Emporium and Healing Art Shop. It's the largest locally owned and operated metaphysical retailer in the Sandusky, Ohio Tri-County area. Serving the Firelands region since April of 2014, they're pleased to offer a space that is welcoming, relaxing, and open to everyone. In the Emporium, you will find a variety of unique gifts, special events and services, as well as classes and workshops to soothe your mind, body, and spirit. If you're in the Sandusky, Ohio area, look for Divine Awakenings at 1006 Tiffin Avenue, Sandusky, Ohio. Their phone number is 419-502-9137, and you can find them on Facebook at /Divine Awakenings LLC. Coming back from our short kind of intermission and break, we're talking this evening about mediumship and the means and differences between what you might see in Hollywood versus what happens in reality. And I know that there's some things that are going to come up, so I'm going to address one of them. Then I'm going to talk to Pat and Jared here and find out what some of their thoughts are. Anytime that you go to work as a client with a medium, try to be respectful of the entire event that is going to happen. The second thing, because you wouldn't badmouth people, walk up to them and cuss at them and call them all kinds of names and tell them they're a jerk. Try not to. The second thing, try when you first sit down to be emotionally as stable as possible. Even though what you might get ready to ask may be something that is very upsetting for you, try to remain calm, stable, and then allow things to create a connection. Because if you're upset, you may not connect to the right person that you're really looking for. And people don't quite understand that. Now, Pat,
Yes, sir.
When you have worked in different areas with different people across decades, literally, and I don't say this because I pick on Pat because of her age. I say this because Pat...
Yeah, he does.
Okay, yeah, I do. No, I don't. I say that because people may not truly understand that you've been at this 20, 30, 40 years.
Try 65.
Okay, but how old were you when you did your... And I'll put it this way. Let's separate. We all did readings when we were younger. And then at some point in time, we transitioned to something that we would call a profession. A profession is something that you do in exchange for other goods or money. So, how old were you when you gave your first professional reading?
Unknowingly or knowingly? Unknowingly, oh gosh. I would say 1975. After my second near death, I would just be talking to you. Happened, I was talking to a dear friend. I was down in my family room. We have a stone fireplace, all the different size stones and everything. I'm sitting there talking to her, and this face appears in an oblong stone, probably 10 inches wide by 14, 16 inches long. And this man with little gold rimmed glasses and light brown hair and very pleasant smile. And I'm talking to Judy, and I knew her father-in-law had passed. I never met the man. I knew nothing about him. I knew her husband. And I'm sitting there talking to her, and all of a sudden, I've got this gentleman, and I'm not even aware of it. And I'm talking, and I'm rambling for like 20 minutes, and she goes, Pat. And I said, what? And she said, when did you meet my father-in-law? And I went, oops. And I said, oh, Judy, I mean, I know Jim, but I never knew your father. And she says, because everything you were telling me was things that I feel he would be saying to me now that he's not here anymore. How'd you do that? I said, oh, I don't know. Just happens sometimes. I mean, what do you say? Nobody. I was a closet psychic at that point. Because, like I said, from not realizing I was weird to I was about 16 to using to do anything with it. And when I was in my early 20s, because it was just too overwhelming, I just didn't know how to deal with it. Then the second near death at age 31, and it's like, well, that door ain't closing anymore. So live with it. Yeah. So I'd say it was probably got my license in 77. So yeah, and I was 31, just 30 when I got my license, and the second near death was 31 a year later. So yeah, would have been about 19.
So
yeah.
you're talking
Long time ago.
You have been reading longer than Jared's been alive.
Oh, shush.
And almost as long as I have. But I bring this up because I want people to understand. You're looking at a lady that has been around the block. She knows what the hell she's talking about. She has spoken to, I can't tell you how many people, and I can't tell you how many states, okay? This is the real deal. And I say that respectfully. We all are. All three of us here have worked with people for years. But Pat is just, you've got to understand the amount of knowledge that she has, number one. When you are working with someone and the wrong person comes across, as you mentioned, and the client balks, how do you deal with that to try to help them understand why it happened?
There's usually unfinished business there. There may be a lot of anger. There may be guilt. There may be disappointment. The only thing that I ask when people sit down in front of me is don't challenge me. Don't, because spirit will shut me down right now. I try to do what I do. I do what I do with the utmost respect of who's in front of me and who I'm talking with on the other side. And if you try to challenge me, well, tell me what color suit. I just say, I am so sorry, but that's it. Nothing's going to happen now. Well, what do you mean? Because you're not being respectful of me or the person we're trying to contact. And I don't want to talk to him. I need you know. And sometimes it's a molestation situation. And I go, they need, you know, this needs to be brought forward and you need to deal with it so that both of you can move forward. And sometimes they'll get very angry with me and I say, I'm just the messenger. And until I get this one out of the way, I can't talk to anybody else because this one's not going to let me. You know, like you said, they're standing in line. And
that's it, too. We're right in that point of getting ready to wrap up. Jared, I'm going to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. When you are dealing and working as a medium and you've established a connection that you, the client, and the person on the other side all understands, we're talking together, and the client asks one thing, and the spirit on the other side is adamant about getting a particular message across, and it may even make you uncomfortable, and they will sit there and give you a headache until you do. How have you handled that situation before?
As kindly and respectfully as you possibly can. You just give the information as you receive it. It is not your information to discern. It's not your information to filter. If I were to tell you something that your grandma is saying to you, and I was to put my own spin on it, you necessarily might not believe that I'm speaking with grandma. However, if I say it directly the way I receive it, the way grandma would have said it, it's going to resonate with you more. So it's not for me to discern. A lot of times when I'm receiving this information, it's like playing charades. It doesn't make sense to us.
Right.
I remember one time I was giving someone a reading, and it's like, why am I seeing a taco? I have no idea I'm seeing a taco. And they're like, I'm not sure why I'm seeing that taco. And, you know, sometimes the client has psychic amnesia. They don't always remember everything at that time and moment. They need to go home and digest it. And 9 times out of 10, they're contacting you back saying, oh, my God, you were right. But I didn't understand why I was seeing a taco. So I had to try to break it down as they were trying to break it down to me. And it ended up being that the lady actually was used to calling kid with her daughter's husband. So it would have been, what is that to her?
Wow.
Daughters. Well, anyways, she would joke with him because he was Mexican and say, hey, taco, or something like that to him. So that's how it came across. It's like, it doesn't make sense to me, but you just give the information as you get it, and you try to do it as respectfully as possible, either by saying it beforehand, saying like, this doesn't make sense to me, or, you know, I have to say this as they're saying it, and I apologize because it's coming through abruptly, but this is the information, and let them deal with it.
Can I add something, Michael?
Sure.
And when we give them a message that they can't relate to, I say, please, when you go to bed at night, thank the angels and guides and these people for helping you to understand what it is they're trying to tell you. And sometimes it will take a day or two, but they will come to them in dream time and do a visitation with them, if you will, and help them to understand why, you know.
Right. And I'll ask this just in wrapping up, because I do want to get to the person that was chosen for this evening's chat. Have either one of you refused to pass a piece of information along from the spiritual side to this side? Pat?
I have. If it's a flagrant insult, if it's somebody calling somebody a bastard or you never were any good or blah, blah, blah. No, that has no place. That serves no purpose.
I agree.
And I will tell them, sorry, not happening on my watch.
Jared, you nodded your head. You have as well?
No, I've not yet had that experience, because usually all the information that's ever come through me is for it's higher vibrational. Unless it is something that's earthbound, they tend to be a little bit more mouthy and stuff like that directly to the person. Usually the flagrant insults are for other people that they're dealing with. It could be a mother that might have been mentally abusive, and the father's coming through and saying she was never, something like that. I just give it as I get it usually, but I've never had that specific. I guess I'd have to discern that as it comes through.
Interesting.
It's often an alcoholic or someone who was mentally disturbed, or someone who's not totally in control or never was totally in control of their facilities, and they're just they're lashing out. I was like, yeah.
And I agree. And there are, it's the same thing. If we were having a conversation, the three of us, there may come a topic to where what's on my mind might be insulting, or is not necessarily need to be said or passed along. So it happens from time to time. Does it happen often? I don't believe so. Because as Jared said, most of the ones that we work with are there for the right reasons at the right time for the right people.
When they do that and they insist on passing this message along, you always warn us of a beer. Right? I have a girlfriend who always says, always tell as much of the truth as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. So I will say, I get the feeling that this person cursed a lot, or was not particularly nice, and they're in that mode now. So we're just going to let them go back on their way.
That's the way to do it. All right, we're going to close out for the mediumship. The next thing that we have coming up is our spiritual guidance side. I didn't think it was going to be that loud.
Somebody's playing with you, buddy.
I swear, you think that everything is under control. There is no control. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I'm just along for the ride like every other human body on the planet. This evening, our first, the guest that we have this evening, and I will apologize if my pronunciation of your last name is incorrect. It is spelled Szekely. Zekely? Sekely? Mm-hmm. Michelle Sekely. If you would, Michelle Sekely, please, in the chat room, go ahead and type your question in. I know there's going to be about a 10 or 15 second intermission kind of delay between me talking here and what we're going to see in the chat room. So, Michelle Sekely, would love to hear and see what your question is for our panel this evening.
Hi, Michelle.
And like I said, it is the one thing with the broadcasting software that I'm using. It takes a moment to go through Facebook and then out to the rest of the world. So it can be anywhere between 10, 15 seconds in a delay. But Michelle Sekely, if you are still here in the chat room, by all means, please go ahead and type your question into the chat area. And then we're going to take a round-robin turn to answer your question. And while I'm waiting on that to happen, for the two of you, Bobby had asked a question just real quick. Have either of you ever gotten a message from his mom for him?
There's many times that I've felt Bobby's mom around. Sometimes I don't always try to communicate directly. If she has a message, she usually gives that to me specifically, but I do feel her presence around quite often, and especially right after she had passed, when we were in her home, I would even relay that information to Bobby when I knew she was in the room or when she would walk in. So if she ever gives me something specific, I'll directly tell you. That's for sure.
All she says to me is she loves the flowers. Did you all plant flowers around your home now? Did she love flowers? What's with the flowers?
Okay. Michelle Seckley has said, is my grandma at peace? And does she have an answer for me? Just a yes or no. Michelle, before I have anybody answered that, again, we're going to have this little bit of a time delay. Please tell me your grandmother's first name, because we kind of need a little bit of piece of information to help us connect as a reader, as a medium. And so with everybody else isn't just kind of sitting around. We're trying to do something a little bit different in our spiritual guidance. We had not included this in previous shows, and that was me because I was a little bit adamant about it. And I've become a little bit more flexible in what I'm doing. But our show is definitely growing, changing, evolving. As we brought Jared on, he had brought in some fantastic new ideas that we're going to be working with. So look for changes in Terra Turas as we go through the next 3, 5, 7 weeks. Then I'm waiting for Michelle Seckley to tell me her grandmother's first name.
Can I give you what I got immediately?
Absolutely.
Her grandmother is very at peace. The body no longer has issues. And she knows the answer is yes, and she knows what needs to be done.
And Michelle just typed her first name in as Mary. So her grandmother, Mary. Jared, I'm going to go ahead and let you take the next part of that.
I fully agree with Pat. I got the same message. It was very concise. Yes, I'm at peace. Definitely everyone's at peace when they cross over. All the physical ailments, any diseases, anything like that, that stuff just shifts right out the door, and you are completely at peace and complete harmony. But I heard absolutely yes.
I'm very much, and again, it is ironic because I look at all of us, because we all three of us know each other, both on a professional and a personal level. And Michelle, I would tell you the same thing. Getting an image in my mind, it's not like I'm sitting. This lady wants to take me for a walk, more, not a country lane, but she wants to take me for a walk. So to say that she is at peace and no physical kind of ailments, 100% true. You know, and it is this fresh air and all kinds of things, and a lot of things that she wants to talk about, until I stop and say, okay, she wants a yes or a no. And I get things a little bit differently, and what I heard was, well, the answer certainly is not no. And I'm like, okay. So it again, the three of us are basically telling you, here she is in a fantastically wonderful kind of way, and telling you yes. So I'm hoping that is able to help you out a little bit this evening as you go along.
It's funny that you said, Michael, that she wanted to take you for a walk, because she keeps showing me shoes for some reason. I don't know what's up with the shoes. Just throwing that out there.
I'm wondering if she had difficulty walking or motivating very much. And the word she gives me is, I'm free. I am so free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I almost saw tap dancing. I don't know why, but
that's what it was for me. Is I'm automatically pulled and drawn from sitting and being where we am to we're out taking a stroll, out in the fresh air. It's a beautiful light summer kind of day. It's just gorgeous. And this lady wants to chew my ear off, but I'm like, time out. We got to stay focused here. But polite. And she's
very
Such
happy.
A polite.
She's
yeah.
Very happy.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be doing this every week at the end of our show. Is taking time to be able to, and Michelle Seckley, I truly appreciate your being there to take part in what we're doing in our show on Terra Turas, and I hope that we as readers are able to help you a little bit with a little bit of understanding, compassion, something that helps connect with you. But we're going to be doing this at the end of the show every week as we go along, because we have found we want to connect more. When I first started all of the show and brought everybody together, it was very much, I wanted to be getting information to people, but we are so much more than just talking figureheads. This is what we do. This is who we are. We are all three readers. Even Heather, that is not here this evening, we are all readers on the show. And we want to put that to use just as much as being able to help educate people or help people understand different items, different things. Now, just real quick before we end the show, Jared, see, I want to keep pointing because you're over here on my screen, and I'm like... I'm not even going to ask what the hell that was.
It was like a grandfather clock, Michael.
Ding, time's up. You're out of here. Thanks, Pat.
All we need is the cuckoo. Cuckoo.
Right? It's my old antique school clock out there.
You can't make this stuff up, folks. I'm just going to sit here.
Your face was
This is how I'll be for the rest of the show. Just this big circle. Makes me feel like I'm in Romper Room. I see, Kevin. Jared, in doing what you do, what would you say? I know all of us are very well-rounded in what we do, but what would you say your major capabilities are as a reader if you had to put it into 2 or 3 different kinds of things? What would you say your specialties are?
Good question. Just definitely helping people on their life path, whatever it may be. With definitely healing, bringing through healing messages from deceased loved ones, to give confirmation, to give awareness, to open people's minds, and to just help people in whatever way that I'm able to through spirit.
Pat?
Can I add a word for that, Jared?
I'm sorry?
Can I add a word for Jared?
Yeah.
I would say compassion, because he immediately puts himself in the position of the person in front of him and immediately connects on many, many, many points, not just 1 or 2, whatever. I mean, he's just one of those people. Do you know what I mean?
I do, because I've watched him interact with people. And being a reader, you see these energies going back and forth all the time. And I watched him make multiple connections, like you say, and then trying to find which one of those are going to be the most comfortable to interact with this person on. Because you watch him talk to 4, 5, 6 different people. Mannerisms changed, the vocabulary changed, everything changed. All right, Pat, what would you say that your predominant capabilities
I would say the psychometry, even if it's a billet, even if someone just writes their name on a piece of paper for me and I can hold it, that energy is just phenomenal. It all goes together. It all just fits together. There's no one thing that I can pull out, you know. If you ever walked into a room and known there was a big argument happened there just a few minutes before you got there, you know, you feel all those little needles. I mean, it's just the way we are. It's just the way we are. Our radar is always on, and I don't know about you guys, but like if I go someplace like Conneaut Lake or Lilydale, I have to tell them, I am here. I'm going to sleep now. I will talk to you tomorrow, because if I don't, they'll bug me all night long.
Yep.
And it's like, no, I need my rest. And so that's, you know, just the way it is. And I always tell them, don't tell me anything I can't do something about, because we all know how we felt before 9/11. There was something in the air and nobody could put their finger on it, but we knew it wasn't good. If there's an earthquake in Japan and you know it's going to be really, really bad, you got the, oh my gosh, what's going on? But you can't put your finger on it. So clear, concise, complete confirmation, and do not tell me anything I can't do something about.
Boy, do I know that feeling. I want to come back and circle back to something you said here just before we close out. For me, the correct terminology, if I can, is clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, which means I see things, I hear things, and I'm given things to know, as well as working as a medium. Who was it? Nostradamus used to called scrying. He would look at an obsidian mirror, and that's how all the information was shown to him, like a movie playing on this obsidian mirror. And I'm much the same way. If I look out a dark window, there's all kinds of things that I'll see. And depending upon who I'm talking with, they'll come closer or further away. So it is a mashup. You often hear people, I think every decent reader on the planet, you hear people say, well, I get things as pictures or movie clips, or I hear things or I smell things, or it's a mashup of all of those, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because all of us have done it for so long, this is who we are. This is what we do. I can't go back. Somebody asked me one time, they said, what's it like to be a psychic? And I started to laugh. They said, why are you laughing? I said, what's it like to be normal? I don't know how to tell you that. Anyhow, for people that have heard that when they focus their attention, that your attention controls things. What you think about is what you draw to you. Okay, it's Metaphysics 101. We'll get into it someday. But when you all think about something, it helps bring it into reality. It's called manifesting. Pat said the magic words, 911, 9/11, September 11th. And to show people the power of a collective thought or a collective arrowhead, the New York State 3-digit lottery on the first anniversary was 911. I kid you not. Wow. You can go back and look it up. It's because everybody in the world was focused on New York and 3 numbers, and that's what their 3-digit number came out on the first anniversary. So for the people that say, well, I can't really control anything with my thoughts. Bullshit. Sorry. You can't.
Well, and especially if you're in fear, false energy appearing real. If you're fearing something, you become a magnet for the very thing that you're fearing.
It is true. We attract how we feel and what we think. Manifestation. We'll get back into that topic here at some point in time. For everybody that was in the chat room, thank you so much for joining this evening. I saw a lot of people that I truly know who they are. I love it that we're seeing more and more and more people. Michelle Seckley, thank you so much for participating this evening in the first time that we've done a spiritual guidance. And we're going to look forward to doing that again next week. Until then, I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend. And we'll see you again next week, 9 p.m., Wednesday evening, here on Terra Turas. Until then, have a great night.
Blessings.